Good evening. It's wonderful to be here with you this evening, and I really want to tell you something that is on my heart. So I co-founded and co-direct Restored, a Christian organisation really looking to answer two questions of where is the church and where are the men when it comes to ending violence against women. And I'll take you through a little bit of that in a minute. But before we start, I'm a trainer by heart, so I can't resist the temptation to get you to do a little exercise at the start. So what I want you to do is introduce yourself to your neighbour, get to know their name, because that's a new friend in heaven, isn't it? So you're welcome, you get to know somebody new. And what I want you to do is one of you to close your fist tight as you can, and then your neighbour, who you will introduce yourself to, has 20 seconds to open your hand. Is that clear? Yeah? So introduce yourself to your neighbour. One of you decide to close your hand. And I'll give you 20 seconds. Are you ready? Okay. You've got 20 seconds starting now. Open the hand. Okay, 5 seconds, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Hands up if you managed to get your new friend in heaven's hand open. Yeah. How many forced it open? Yeah, forced it open. Andy, can I just borrow you a minute, please? Andy, can you just close your fist tight for me, please? So I need to open Andy's hand. Andy, can you open your hand, please? Huh. Now, doesn't that demonstrate, and there's an important reason why we did that, is the fact that it is so indoctrinated in us, so enculturated in us, that we automatically default to using force. And it's so ingrained in us, we didn't give it a second thought to try and automatically force our neighbour's hand open. So bear that in mind when we go through this. So I want you to hold 4 women in your heart. So think of your mother, sister, wife, daughter, your friend. Just think of those 4 women. It's easy for me. I have 4 nieces who are lovely, and I adore them. You got 4 names in your head? So this is the breadth of violence against women. 1 in 3 women globally and 1 in 4 women in the UK will suffer abuse in a lifetime. So one of those 4 women that you've just thought about might actually suffer abuse, which is a horrifying thought. It's an absolutely horrifying thought. It breaks my heart, and it definitely breaks God's heart. But I think the alarming statistic there at the bottom is that 2 women a week are still killed in the UK by a partner or a former partner. One of the things we get asked at Restored is, surely not in our church, maybe not in our church, maybe outside in the community, but not in our church. But as we will see, that's not always the case. So when we're talking about domestic violence, what are we really talking about here? Often we associate it with physical violence, and that is one of the aspects of abuse. But it's any incident or pattern of incidents of coercive or controlling behaviour in an intimate partner relationship. And it can encompass, but not limited to, emotional abuse, verbal abuse, financial abuse, physical, sexual abuse, emotional, and in churches, spiritual abuse too, where the Bible is used as a tool of power and control over another person. And that's something that we need to face. You can see here we've got the Duluth model of power and control. And right at the heart of abuse is that desire to abuse power and control another person. And as Christians we'd say that's sin and selfishness. It's basically, I can see this is on a timer, basically it is saying that your needs are not important. I'm the most important one. I'm the centre of attention, and you're there to serve my needs. And I will use whatever is in my power and in control to coerce you, to manipulate you to serve my needs because you don't count. That is the very basic side of it. But in our churches, it's a very hidden issue. This is a domestic abuse poster from Norway, and as you can see on the front, it's a very happy, smiling face, but actually behind the back or behind closed doors, there's a very different issue that appears. And that is the case. Women who are abused sometimes don't know they are, which might seem strange, but don't recognise that they are being abused, just to maybe think it's a difficult marriage or a hard marriage. But actually it's abuse, a coercive and controlling behaviour. Often there's a lot of shame and silence and stigma surrounding abuse. And it's that silent shame and stigma that we want to break at Restored, so that survivors of abuse can get the help and the support that they need to recover going forward. So 1 in 4. So if you think about how many women in your church you have, or even in this college, and then you divide that by 4, there's a possibility of that number in your church that could be suffering in silence. And where would they be able to get the help and the support that they need to actually heal and be restored? Pumzile Mlambo Nguka is the executive director of UN Women and said this really shocking reality. Elaine will be talking about scars across humanity and violence against women. But Pumzile here says that all countries worry me because of the universality of violence against women. You know, the fact that 75% of violence against women is domestic violence is the issue, and that the home is the unsafest place for a woman to be. The home is the unsafest place for a woman to be. That is a shocking reality, and that is in our country, in our culture, in our churches. We need to start to address it. And I can see that this timing issue is going to be really frustrating. So let me just go up there. I don't know how to actually switch that timer off. But what we wanted to know at Restored is, is this in churches too? Are we part of the problem or part of the solution? And we teamed up with the University of Coventry and the University of Leicester to look at this issue, and looked at churchgoers across Cumbria for this, and teamed up with Churches Together across Cumbria. And as you've seen already, that actually 1 in 4 churchgoers, that's men and women, had suffered abuse in their current relationship. But when we looked at previous relationships, that increased to 42.2%. So it is in our churches, and it is a reality in our churches, and we need to speak up about it. What the research also showed is this sex disparity, that most of the abuse was perpetrated by men. And that is a hard reality to face. Women do abuse too, but as we see here, 90.8% of that was perpetrated by men. And yes, they are Christians. And in this research, they're more likely to be Christians than not. 56.7% involve Christian perpetrators. So it's in our churches too, and it is Christian men and some women that are perpetrating it. And I think, as you see on that slide, one of the most concerning things that we learned was 6 women were living in fear of their lives. Churchgoers in Cumbria, one region of the UK, and 6 women were living in fear of their lives. Shocking reality that we need to address in our churches. The Right Reverend Christopher Coxworth, the Bishop of Coventry, said this: violence against women is a shocking reality that's pervaded most human cultures. And that's true. Violence against women is a truly democratic issue. It's no respecter of age, ethnicity, geography, wealth. Some of you will remember Nigella Lawson and Charles Saatchi, where he was going for a throat and published on the front page. If he's doing that in public, I'd hate to think what he was doing in private. It's no respecter of anything. It can happen to any woman. It doesn't matter. So he goes on to say, whether by turning a blind eye or subliminal religious messages to turn the other cheek, where Jesus would have confronted an evil, violence against women has been too often unchallenged in our churches. It's a hard reality. Jimmy Carter, former president of the USA and also Baptist minister, went even further in his book. In general, men don't give a damn. The average man might say, I'm against the abuse of women and girls, and then quietly accepts a privileged position that we occupy. Harsh words from the president. So what do you do? Okay, men are feeling got at this stage usually in my talk, and are like, oh great, I'm part of the problem. But actually, we still think you can be part of the solution, and that's why we have a campaign called First Man Standing for you to get involved. But we're really passionate. The church can make a difference. Yes, it's on the back foot at the moment, but the church can respond. So that's why we set up Restored as an international Christian alliance to transform relationships and end violence against women, to answer these 2 questions of where's the church and where are the men. So First Man Standing really links up with the White Ribbon campaign to get men to respect all women, challenge other men's attitudes and actions, and join in the cause with women to end violence against women. At Restored, I'm a co-director. My other co-director is a man, Andrew Kaplan, and we try to model that men and women working together to bring this issue to an end. So, You'd think I hadn't done a PowerPoint before, wouldn't you? All these slides going forward. So there are lots of things that you can do to get involved. On your way in, you would have seen this wonderful resource that we've produced. It's available in different languages on our website. You can download this for free. It's our church pack, and it takes you through what is domestic abuse, the signs and indicators of abuse, and what you can do in response. There's a self-assessment survey for churches at the back, a charter for churches, and a really handy guide of do's and don'ts in addressing survivors and perpetrators of abuse. So I'd really recommend you download this and take a look. And there's some hard copies out there. You can ask for training. We train churches. We link in with 318, formerly known as CCPS, to come in and train churches about how to respond well when domestic abuse is disclosed. You know, men can join First Man Standing. We've got some Bible studies for men that you can download online and join in with groups. Actually start to look at these issues of what you can do and how you can get involved. And then, of course, there's pray. You know, this is about spiritual battles of darkness, and we want to push that and bring in the light in this situation so that everybody can be released from the oppression that is going on. And then if you want to advocate, there's a domestic abuse consultation going through Parliament at the moment when they're not talking about Brexit. And at Restored, we've put in a response because we want to see churches included in that response. So if you find out who your MP is and ask to ensure that in that domestic abuse consultation that churches are included in there, because churches are in every community across this nation and can be a safe space for survivors of abuse to get the help and the support that they need. And finally, National Domestic Violence Helpline number. Again, it goes back to my training, 0808 2000 247, easy to remember, 08, repeat it, 08. It was formed in the year 2000 and is open 24 hours, 7 days a week. So hopefully you'll be able to remember that. Thank you.